Good morning, everyone. On this solemn day, I recall that the first order of business for members of Congress is the solemn act to take an oath to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States. With great respect and gratitude that I thank the chairs of the committees, the 6 committees who have been working to help us honor our oath of office. I also want to thank the staff of those committees and the committee members for all of their work over this period of time to help us protect and defend. I want to thank the chairman of the Judiciary Committee, Mr. Nadler, chair of the Intelligence Committee, Mr. Schiff, chair of the Ways and Means Committee, Chairman Richie Neal of Massachusetts, the chair of the Foreign Affairs Committee, Elliot Engel of New York, the chair of the Financial Services Committee, Maxine Waters of California, the chair of the Committee on Government Reform and Oversight, Congresswoman Carolyn Maloney. I also want to acknowledge the important work that was done by our dear and departed Mayor.
A sitting federal judge just did something no judge in American history has ever done, and the consequences are detonating through Washington like a political earthquake. Tonight, a judicial referral officially landed on the desks of House leadership, urging Congress to consider the impeachment of a sitting president while his federal criminal trial is still underway. That sentence alone should tell you how serious this moment is. Judges don't improvise. Judges don't step into political firestorms. Judges don't invite Congress to remove a president. But tonight, one did. And once you understand why, the national panic swirling right now will make perfect sense. Because this wasn't a symbolic gesture. This wasn't a press statement. The judge didn't recommend anything. He transmitted evidence, formally, directly, under seal. And he used language that legal scholars are calling catastrophic for the presidency. Before anyone even had time to absorb the shock, protests erupted outside the Capitol. National Guard units were repositioned, and lawmakers, some of whom defended the president just a week ago, began sprinting away from him in a panic. The entire political landscape shifted in a single night, and if you think I'm exaggerating, you're not ready for what comes next. But before we even touch the fallout, we need to rewind to the moment everything changed. Yesterday morning, reporters packed into a federal courtroom expecting a routine evidentiary hearing. Instead, they watched federal marshals physically escort the president's legal team out of the room, not for a disagreement, not for a scheduling dispute, but for perjury. 17 documented false statements about emails they insisted did not exist. 17. And when the judge presented the email that proved the lies, an email involving a $40 million foreign transaction, the defense crumbled. That was the moment the judge's patience snapped, and that was the moment history quietly pivoted. Because once the courtroom cleared, the judge didn't simply resume proceedings. He escalated, dramatically. And what he did next is the reason Washington is in chaos tonight. He prepared an evidence transmission packet. Not a summary, not a memo. Every transcript, every recording, every sealed exhibit, every documented false statement, hundreds of pages of material pointing to potential impeachable conduct. And then he wrote a line that will be studied by constitutional scholars for decades. Congressional transmission is now complete. That phrase is not decorative. That phrase tells Congress, you have everything you need. Act, and they are. Here's the part that lawmakers aren't saying publicly yet. A resolution to impeach the president has been sitting dormant since last spring. Not discarded, waiting. It outlined 7 possible articles: bribery, abuse of power, obstruction, violations of oath, and more. But it didn't have the votes. It hovered around 120 co-sponsors. Not enough to move. Not enough to force debate. Legislators waited, unsure whether evidence would emerge strong enough to justify a push. Then the judge's referral arrived. Within hours, the co-sponsor list exploded. 120 ballooned to 150, then 170, then past 200. As of 9 a.m. today, 220 co-sponsors were officially on record, crossing the threshold needed to impeach. And the most shocking names weren't Democrats. They were Republicans who had publicly defended the president mere days earlier. Thomas Massie, Tom Tillis, and others quietly signaling they were preparing statements. When Massie stepped to a microphone this morning and said, "Resign or removal. He is unfit to command," reporters in the room went silent. Because it wasn't just a condemnation, it was a signal. The party was fracturing in real time. And leaders in Congress understood immediately. Once defections begin, they accelerate. And when the House Judiciary Committee received the judge's sealed packet, everything snapped into motion. Members invoked the 72-hour rule. That rule guarantees a floor vote within 3 days. It exists for moments when immediate action is considered necessary to protect constitutional order, which means the impeachment vote will take place by January 11th. No delays, no procedural tricks, no slow walking. 3 days. That is all the time the president has left before the House formally votes on whether to impeach him for the 3rd time in American history. Now, the president's reaction has only intensified the crisis. Since the referral landed, he has been posting non-stop on social media. Long rants, all caps, accusations, conspiratorial claims, none of which slow the process. If anything, they accelerate it, because threats of civil conflict, even implied ones, are being added to the evidentiary record. Officials who once dismissed his online reactions as bluster now treat them as indicators of instability. Agencies tasked with national security are monitoring extremist chatter. Barricades have gone up around government buildings. Protesters, on both sides, have appeared in massive waves. This is no longer a political situation. This is a stability situation. But here's the deeper problem the president faces. Impeachment isn't the only danger closing in. The judge's referral didn't just go to Congress, it also went to prosecutors. If evidence shows the president directed his lawyers to lie under oath, that opens the door to criminal exposure. Obstruction, suborning perjury, witness interference. These are not symbolic charges, they're federal crimes. Multiple grand juries are already active across several states. If indictments are issued while impeachment is ongoing, the political and legal systems will collide in a way the country has never experienced. And behind the scenes, something even more volatile is developing. Members of the cabinet have begun quietly discussing the 25th Amendment. That amendment is not meant for political disagreements. It is meant for moments when a president is deemed unable to discharge the duties of the office. It bypasses lengthy processes. It can act overnight. If invoked, the vice president becomes acting president immediately. There are reports, unconfirmed but persistent, of staff calling legal advisors for guidance. In normal times, these rumors would be dismissed. These are not normal times. Meanwhile, the Republican Party is tearing at its seams. Lawmakers who flip face threats. Loyalists lash out. Pragmatists try to distance themselves. Senior strategists warn of catastrophic midterm consequences if the chaos continues. The party is not simply divided. It is destabilizing under the weight of the moment. Every new piece of evidence deepens the fracture. And the world is watching. Allies express alarm. Adversaries test boundaries. Markets tremble. The U.S. looks volatile, unpredictable, and internally divided. The presidency depends on stability. Tonight, stability is gone. So where does this all lead? To a constitutional confrontation unlike anything the nation has ever seen. For decades, presidents relied on delay as a shield. Drag investigations out. Let elections intervene. Count on public fatigue. But delay is gone. The judge's referral replaced political timing with judicial timing, and judicial timing is unforgiving. Once evidence is transmitted, Congress must act. The countdown has started, and no amount of rhetoric can rewind it. The House will vote. The Senate will try the case. And whether the president survives or not, the presidency itself will be permanently altered. Because something happened tonight that cannot be undone. The judiciary stepped forward and said the evidence is too severe to ignore. This moment shattered the illusion that the presidency is insulated from immediate accountability. Even if the Senate acquits, governance becomes nearly impossible. Every order questioned, every decision challenged, every agency preparing contingency plans. Authority, once fractured, doesn't reassemble cleanly. And yet, beneath the legal turmoil and political warfare, there is a deeper shift happening, one that historians will analyze long after this crisis ends. Power is moving away from personality and back toward process. Cold, documented, procedural process. The one force the president has never been able to bend. Because at the end of the day, the countdown isn't driven by outrage or politics. It is driven by a sealed packet of evidence now sitting in the House Judiciary Committee. Evidence that cannot be spun. Evidence that does not rely on opinion. Evidence that members of Congress must publicly vote on within 3 days. Every post the president makes becomes an exhibit. Every statement becomes testimony. Every threat becomes justification for urgency. And those 3 days will feel like an eternity for officials trying to keep the country stable. The illusion of invincibility is gone. The illusion of untouchability is gone. The illusion that consequences can be outrun is gone. What remains is the one thing no president can outrun: the Constitution. 3 days. One vote. And a presidency hanging by a thread. If you want ongoing updates as this story evolves, and trust me, it will evolve, make sure to subscribe, turn on notifications, and join the community that refuses to look away. Because what happens next won't just shape one administration, it will shape the future of presidential power in America. Like the video, share it, and stay alert. The next chapter is already unfolding.